26 seconds, but there's a lot going on in there, Ashley.
Yeah, there's probably too much, maybe.
No, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I'm joined today by my guest, Ashley Rigg of Made Snappy. How are you doing, Ashley?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you, David. Very well, thank you.
Ashley, obviously, Made Snappy is a brand that we're familiar with, but your offering, if you like, has been enhanced, and it seems to have come on leaps and bounds. So that's what we're here to talk about today. If you don't mind, this is a bit strange because normally I don't normally go into the background of the people behind the business, but your story caught my eye, and I think that's quite relevant. So you've been working in the property industry since 2005. And I know that you have various different roles, but in 2011, you launched the Bristol Property Partnership with your business partner, Nick. And that business now manages over 500 tenants in the city there. And you became a client of Made Snappy in 2020, and you were so convinced by the potential of the company that you came on board. That to me is it's the endorsement that every supplier wishes they could have. So just talk to me about that journey, Ashley.
Yeah, well, the journey, I mean, as you said, I've worked in property since 2005. I was online director for the What House Awards in Show House, kind of in the new build space. Then kind of launched my own business in 2007. Did consultancy actually for the Property Investor Show and a place in the Sun magazine and those kind of things. And then I realized that my clients were making a lot more money than I was, if I'm totally honest with you, and decided to go into like bricks and mortar side of things. So investing in property with my business partner, Nick, sourcing property deals through agents, and also launching a lessons agency, like you said. And yeah, we've built up a portfolio managing 500 plus tenancies for other people around the city. So that's gone extremely well. Had an extremely good team. And yeah, so I think Mark McCory, the founder of Made Snappy, actually cold called me. I didn't take his calls for probably 4 or 5 calls, maybe some, and eventually he got hold of me and I was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, actually what he's got to offer and is really, really good. So we tried it out and used it to create virtual tours for our letting agent. The main driver for us was just saving costs. We were finding our negs were going across town and then wasting their time because we manage rooms as well as single lets. It happens more often in rooms, but someone goes, oh, the room's too small or the kitchen's not big enough, and literally you'd waste sometimes an hour, because Bristol our furthest place is probably about 45 minutes away from the office, right? So it's an hour and a half round trip,
spread,
half an hour. So that was the key driver. And it was like it was so easy and cost effective. I just thought this is
and that was really sort of the key difference with what made Snappy sort of stand out is that it's not the only sort of 360 virtual tour that you can do, and it wasn't the only piece of kit out there, but it was extremely affordable in terms of agents being able to access it without huge fees and in terms of what they were paying each month for hosting and all sorts of stuff with other alternatives. But the result was just as good.
Yeah, I mean, I was a Matterport client essentially, and what I was finding was that when we were getting the 360 tours done externally, you obviously had to pay someone to do that. Yeah. But the cameras were like £3,000 plus. But the thing was, they take 90 minutes to do a 3-bedroom house. Whereas the 360 camera you can use any 360 camera basically with Made Snappy, and you can create a floor plan, a 98% accurate floor plan and a virtual tour in 10 minutes. So the Matterport, so it's just a time. Who's got 90 minutes to spare to do that? It's just quick and simple, basically. So I was attracted to that, but also attracted to the person behind the business, because you want to invest in people who are really, really good and innovative. And the amount of innovations that I've been on the board as non-exec for just over a year now, and the number of innovations we've made is amazing, really.
Well, let's talk about that. For anybody that's not come into contact with Made Snappy yet, it feels like they've broadened their offering in terms of 4 distinct areas that you spoke about on that particular video that we just watched together. So obviously you've got the virtual tours, you've got the floor plans, you've got photo editing, but you've also very interestingly got prospecting in there as well, which you wouldn't normally expect to sit within a suite of, say, photo editing software or utilities. So perhaps explain to us how this came about and how it works.
Yeah, sure. So it came about, the innovation came about. Obviously, we were just doing virtual tours during the lockdown. And just under a year ago, we decided that we wanted to be a one-stop shop for an agent's listing needs. So the investment at the time has been in creating the 98% accurate floor plans. So you can use any 360 camera. I could possibly show you in a second how it works, because it's really, really easy. And then you take one 360 photo per room, and that creates a 98% accurate floor plan and a virtual tour. You kind of drag and drop the 360 photos onto our system, and we give you the floor plan and the 360 tour back the next working day. We also enhance the photos, as you said, so we'll add like blue skies when it's a grey day, when it's raining, and there are lots of different ways that we enhance the photos to make them look better, no matter what the conditions are. Or whether your guys are kind of highly trained, they don't need to be trained. Yeah. So it kind of reduces the training needs essentially of the agent. But you were getting onto the prospecting, I guess was the thrust of your question. The prospecting, so when we return the virtual tours, the agent gets 2 tours. They get one that's completely open, and then one that is behind a registration wall after a number of clicks. Now, what we find is that our clients put them on the listings for the larger properties, the popular ones that tend to have chains below them. So those properties tend to have buyers which who have a property to sell, which isn't necessarily on the market yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And because the properties are locked off, you get extra leads on Rightmove and Zoopla because of that, and often a multiple of leads. So we know that 8% of the people that go onto there actually register. And they're opted in, so you've got permission to speak to them, and they can go into the agent's prospecting process.
So at its core, I suppose it's a really sort of effective data capture tool as well, in terms of fresh leads, and hopefully it's completely targeted at the people that you want to be talking to who may have a property still to sell.
Yeah, I mean, one of the objections that we had, one of the conversations that I had with my business partner, Nick, is, well, we're putting these tools online. Are we giving away too much? Yes. Are we not therefore
it's always been a worry, hasn't it?
Are we therefore not getting the lead? So the facility to lock off gives us the ability to control that and to choose that process and to choose which one we do. So we might put the open ones on social media, for example, and the closed ones on Rightmove and Zoopla or whatever platform.
I think that's a great idea, because I think one of the worries as an estate agent, I suppose, is yes, you do by offering more, as we've all had to do over the course of the pandemic, in terms of making video tours standard as part of a package. So back in the day, it used to be, yes, the floor plan was the addition that everybody was adding in. Now, obviously, the video tour is there as well. And there was that worry that people would dismiss the property before really getting to look at it properly, and that you wouldn't be able to capitalize on that lead, because people would just make an assumption based on one viewing of the video. You may never hear from them again. This sort of makes sure that door's still open.
Yeah, and one of the things we do, and it's not being used like this very much at the moment, but I think as the market changes, it will. We give private virtual viewing stats, in quotes, so that when it's behind a registration wall, you can say to the vendor, you've only had 1 physical viewing, but you've had 5 virtual viewings. We've spoken to every one of those people. The feedback has been X, Y, and Z. We didn't want to send those people around because we didn't want you to have to tidy up for people who were just tire kickers. So it's an additional personal service as well. And I think that as the market becomes more of a buyer's market, as the cost of living crisis kicks in, particularly maybe after the autumn, when we've got the fuel prices and energy bills going up, we might see more of a buyer's market, and that might become more of a feature that's used.
Yeah, no, it's a great addition. It really is. So We're going to have a look, Ashley, at the, I suppose, one of the key points about creating 360 tours that has always been a bugbear with agents. If you listen to them talking about various different things, you touched on it there at the beginning. It was always the time that it took to put these tours together. So yeah, the camera and the technologies existed for a while, but are you going to lose a neg for an hour, 2 hours on an average size terrace property? How quickly can it actually be turned around? So Ashley, in process, what's the reality?
Shall I show you? Probably
Yeah,
easier just to show you. If I, what I'll do is I'll turn my screen off, and there you go. I'm actually in my lounge.
fantastic.
So 2 seconds. So there's a 360 camera behind me. Can you see that?
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I'll just unscrew it off the tripod. 2 seconds. There we go. So basically, if we compare it to the size of a mobile phone, it's about half the size, something like that. It's tiny. I'm going to turn it on. Okay. And basically, there is a Wi-Fi signal in the phone, and that's flashing.
Yeah.
You don't need Wi-Fi, so it's a Wi-Fi built-in. It's like Bluetooth, really. So there's a Wi-Fi signal built in. I can now go into my phone, into my settings, to look for the Wi-Fi network, which I'm going to do now. I'll show you. Where are we? So yeah, there's a. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see
I can do. Yeah.
So there's a Wi-Fi network that I'm going to press. It's the Taylor something. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but then it's going to check. There you go.
Yeah. And
now I've got it. Yep. Okay. Two seconds.
So now that your phone is basically.
There we go. There we go. Can we see that now?
Oh yes, you can see that.
There's me in my room. I'm going around the wrong way now.
So that's already captured a 3D image of your.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the. I actually had the camera on the table. So if I put it actually up there, as it would be, and then scroll around it, that's probably a better way. So you can
That's
see.
awesome. So it's instantaneous, basically.
Yes, instant. And I'm just going to take a picture.
Yeah.
Right. Done.
Superb.
And it clicks, and then that's basically all you do. So you just it's at a constant height. The tripod's marked at a constant height. You pick up the tripod with the camera on it like that.
It's really light,
and you press one button on your phone per room. That's it. And then you drag and drop those 360 photos that I've just taken, one there, onto our system, and we return the floor plan and the virtual tour to you next working day. It's that easy. So it's about speed, it's about simplicity. There are other more complicated, in my view, and expensive kind of solutions, but this is the quickest one, in my view.
So talking about expenses, what is the investment for an agent in terms of the kit that they'll need, and sort of ongoing costs?
The system works with any 360 camera. I mean, you can pick up 360 cameras for a few £100 plus VAT on Amazon. I've researched the market in quite a lot of depth, and I can recommend cameras to anyone who wants to book on a 15-minute consultation, depending on the needs. Essentially, like we work with Sotheby's London, for example, and they obviously want the best, but there are quite cost-effective options that work extremely well. Yeah, exactly. And our prices are really cost-effective. They're bespoke, essentially, according to the needs of the client. But again, we can go through that on a 15-minute consultation if anyone wants to work with me.
And what I love about this is it's not bulky kit, is it? This can all sort of fit into one bag. You don't need to remember to take your measuring device with you and all the other bits and bobs.
No, so the thing is, you don't, what you save is you don't have to measure. You don't have to use a measure, and you don't have to use the floor plan software. So on average, I think from speaking to clients and my own experience, is saving about 45 minutes on average a property, including the on-site and the off-site back in the office time. So if you're thinking that's what you do 10 a month, that's 7.5 hours a month that you save. What could you be doing with that time? You could be out selling, you could be building relationships, you could be, spending time with your family, you know. So
Gosh, we don't want to do that.
yeah, no.
But if you so if you're putting together these virtual tours, yes, the software is obviously great for that. Is it also that? Is it also replacing an agent's need to actually take individual photos of a room as well?
No, that's a
Or
good. No, that's a good question. So the agent takes photos with their normal device that they use. So obviously a digital camera. There's an interesting debate actually about whether the iPhone 13 Pro, the latest iPhone 13 Pro, produces better results than the latest Nikon camera, for example. But that's a whole debate in itself. But so basically what the client does is they drag and drop their 360 photos and they drag and drop their normal photos onto our system. We enhance the photos. I can show you the enhancements if you want,
that'd be
just
great.
quickly. So yeah, there's 8 different ways we enhance the brightness. HDR, if you don't know, is useful when you get an ensuite sometimes that's darker or lighter than the main room. It like kind of balances it out. I have that problem quite a bit. We sharpen up images if they're blurred. Lens distortion, this still happens actually with the iPhone 13 Pro, because I've tried it. You get sometimes you get like curvy lines and the windows look curvy, and it basically straightens them up. Tone adjustment, the difference between the lightest and the darkest parts of an image. Variety of composition, this doesn't happen very often, but sometimes things can appear like the leaning terrapeza and we straighten them up. White balance, this is probably one of the most common ones in our business. Whites can sometimes appear blue or orange. We might just make them look natural, and obviously we replace the skies as well. So we kind of do all those different things to make the image look great, no matter what the conditions are or who's taking the photo, essentially.
Excellent. And all of that basically is a next day turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all next working day.
It's superb. So virtual tours, now that we're out of lockdown, has this become effectively the new floor plan? It's something that people expect to, both vendors and also buyers expect to sort of see?
That's an interesting one, because I think that for me, what a virtual tour does is increases the quality of the in-person viewing for the agent, because the buyer has had as opposed to a video tour, the buyer's had a chance to have a look round, navigated via all of the floor plan in their own time. They've had a proper look around. So the first viewing becomes more like a second viewing, and you've got more time to build the relationship with the potential buyer, with the prospect. So I do think there's definitely a role for virtual tours. It's quite an interesting one. So the biggest study of its kind was by Realtor.com, which is it's the US Rightmove, as most people probably know. Found that 61% of buyers rated virtual tours as the most useful online search feature, even above photos at 51%, basically. So I think buyers want them. I'm not necessarily convinced at the moment that all vendors are asking for them. I don't think that's true. But buyers want them, and at the moment, only 12% of listings or sales listings on Rightmove have a virtual tour. If you compare it to 89% of sales listings on Rightmove that have a floor plan. So I think there's a big opportunity for agents who are early adopters, because one of the things we do in our 15-minute consultations is we give you a top 7 or 8 competitor analysis and tell you like who's using virtual tours, what they're using, and how you could potentially use that for like a competitor advantage. You know, for example, the virtual tours that we do, we provide a white label system, so that it's from the agent. It's not from Made Snappy, it's on the agent. So it's like 360.hunters.co.uk or whatever the brand is, and there's a loading screen from Hunters or whatever, and you know, it's exclusively from you, and you can pretend that you've invested in your own virtual tours platform because buyers want it. And particularly out of area buyers, it's a better customer service, and particularly if you can lock off the tours and get the data as well.
I mean, it was an easy, I suppose, because it was a necessity during lockdown. We had to sort of filter through the people that wanted to view properties. It was the government recommendation at the time, make sure that they've seen a virtual tour first. And so we all had to pivot very quickly into that zone. And I don't believe that there are very few agents out there that haven't considered their position on it. But it's interesting that it's still a relatively low percentage of listings that carry virtual tours of any
But
kind.
it's partly cost though, isn't it, as well? I think it's cost. Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt you. There is a cost factor involved. Like a floor plan might cost, depending on the part of the
yeah,
country, 10 to 25 quid, let's say. If you outsource it, it depends if it's with an EPC or not, or
yeah.
whatever. But if you're looking at virtual tours, if it takes 90 minutes to create one with another system, with the other systems, then you are paying 100 to 200 pounds sometimes, depending on the area. It's not worth that price. With us, you actually get almost a free virtual tour with a 98% accurate floor plan. So a lot of it, I think, is being cost. It's just been too much money.
Yeah, and I suppose it's up to the agent as well to educate the vendors that they are speaking to, that this is a value proposition that makes their listing stand out, that is going to help you to achieve the best price possible for their property. I think the prospecting angle actually for them is also quite interesting as well, because you get to not lose leads. So you could turn around to a vendor quite easily and say, look, our worry is that people are watching these videos and we're just not getting to capture them, but actually you've got a way of doing that as well. So I'd hope there's enough there under the hood to really make it something that is easy for an agent to explain to a vendor the value that you're adding through this technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's superb. I can see the sense in that. So obviously these 360 photos, they're different from 3D scanners, but they're achieving a sort of a similar overall result.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll show you. I'll maybe show you one of the tours of the client did recently. This is a tour that was done on a kind of a rainy day, and we've made it a sunny day essentially. And you just navigate through the property, and again you can see it's cloudy outside.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a point-to-point system. You can navigate through via the floor plan as well, so you can go into different rooms.
Oh, that's great.
You can blur things out. So yeah, it's really, really simple. You get your own branding, your own logo. There's social sharing buttons as well, so you can share the tour. So it's easily shareable on WhatsApp and social media. So hopefully that's a better representation of a property than photos. The vendor or the buyer might share it on kind of social media. So yeah.
It's fantastic. It really is, and I think sort of bringing down that price point as well, making it accessible to a wider market, allows an agent to, with minimal investment, to sort of enhance their standard offering to a vendor, which I think is the name of the game.
Yeah, and I think the hardware is the other thing, because you can work with any 360 camera. You're not necessarily tied into something that might cost you £2,000-3,000, but might become obsolete and become the next Betamax or VHS, because ultimately you're not tied to one hardware.
And do I need to worry about sort of hosting and so on? No. That used to be a feature of other competing offerings, if you like, that you always used to sort of have to pay the storage effectively for using this sort of equipment.
Yeah, it's all part of the package basically.
Fantastic. So in terms of people taking that next step, obviously all your details are on kerfuffle.com, but the easiest way to sort of get into it, to assess what the agent needs to get up and running, is to book in that 15-minute call with you.
Yeah, if you want to book a time in, there's a calendar link to my calendar, 15 minutes, and we just kind of take you through what your needs are, the potential time and cost savings, which is probably the best camera. If you wanted to go ahead, we also take a little look at your local market, see who's using kind of virtual tours and how you could potentially use that in your conversations with vendors, essentially.
And how quickly could I be using it? So if I came to you today and said, look, I'm interested, you've got my attention, I'd like to start rolling this out this week, how quickly could I get behind the seat of a
Well, there isn't any limitations on the hardware. I mean, the hardware is available, the packs. We provide a get up and running pack with everything or a number of them, and they're on kind of next working day, to set up all the branding in your own virtual tours platform. That can take a week or two. But yeah, I mean, you're kind of ready to go. It's, you know, the training is literally, it's a 15-minute Zoom call to show you the camera and how to do it on site, and then we give you a 15-minute feedback after that, and then you're pretty much done. It's really, really simple. So
Ashley, it all sounds superb. Thank you very much for taking the time to explain it to us today.
no problem. Thanks for your time, David. That's great.